In this video, you're going to see how you can take your old 2D illustrations and make them pop into a 3D version of it in literally just one click. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a quick video for you. We're just going to use the inflation tool in Illustrator to make a 2D version of an illustration, pop into a 3D version of it, and we're going to have a quick exploration of what you can actually do with it. Let's get into Illustrator. We are in Illustrator now, and I already prepared some circles, which I'm now going to just select all and just group them together, so they are treated as one object. And then I'm going to Window and 3D and Materials. And this opens up the 3D and Materials panel, which is basically where the magic happens. And we have different options on how we actually want to create the 3D object. We have Plane, which just basically creates a plane in a 3D space. We have Extrude, which, as it says, extrudes the object. We have Revolve, which creates this nice shape here. And we are having Inflate. And what Inflate actually does is it inflates every single ring we created and makes this cool object here. And now we can play around with the depths of the object, the twist, the taper, and the volume. This really depends on what you want to achieve with your illustration or your 3D object. In our case, it doesn't really matter too much because we're choosing a pretty basic standard front perspective. Speaking of perspective, you can just, if you're not sure how you actually want to position your object, you can just select one of the many presets. So for example, you could choose isometric bottom, and this already places the object in a specific angle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select front and keep it like that. Next up is the materials panel. Here you can apply different materials to the object and create different effects. I'm going to stick with the standard default at the moment, but if you want to have really high realism objects in a 3D space, for example, you would apply different materials to it. If you scroll further down, you have base properties, where you can, for example, increase the roughness or increase a metallic effect. We're going to increase the metallic effect a bit more here and then switch over to the next panel, which is the lighting panel. One of the most important things with a 3D object, and it's really hard to place good light, but luckily Illustrator does a pretty good job and gives us presets here as well. We can choose from standard, diffuse, top left or right, and what diffuse does, in case you just notice that it looks a bit different, it just makes a really soft light already. So for example, if you're outside on a cloudy day, all the shadows are pretty soft and all the light in general is pretty soft. We're going to choose top left here, for example. And now we can play around with a bit more things. We can increase the intensity of the light, the rotation of the light, the height or the softness. We can also choose if we want to have the ambient light and how intense this ambient light is going to be. We also can select shadows. In this case, we actually do want a shadow, and this is what makes the object a bit more realistic. And if you're done with all your settings, you can click on this symbol here, which is rendering with ray tracing. And if you go to the render settings, you can actually select on how high your rendering quality should be. So let's select high and press render. If you select a high quality in the rendering options instead of a low quality, obviously it's going to take a bit more longer and be more intensive for your computer. Mine is actually just frying. So let's wait until this is finished. It takes so long. That took a while, and my computer was frying the whole time. But we're done now with the rendering, and it looks pretty good and quite realistic. And we have the metallic effect on it, which I quite like. And we do have the realistic shadow and how the light sources are actually reflecting off, and it looks quite realistic. So that's how you create 3D objects in Illustrator, which is far easier than to do it in Blender or Cinema 4D. It's basically done with one click of a button, and you can use all the presets and work from there on to just create your own 3D object. And if you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy the other videos of me as well. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.